We lowered steel into open water where there was nothing to see. The horizon looked like a freighter, but it never carried cargo. We pumped concrete into something below and left the water looking empty.
Hi, I'm Mac.
And I'm Diane. Welcome to the Campfire Learning Series.
Tonight, we're meeting Howie, who worked aboard the Horizon, an offshore workship built to take on almost any job.
The Horizon looked like an ordinary cargo ship, but it didn't carry ordinary cargo. It carried workers, tools, steel, and concrete. Howie worked aboard her. Some jobs took them where there was nothing to see but water.
Howie worked on a ship that looked like a freighter from a distance. Long hull, high bow, open working deck. Most people on shore would never think twice. They'd assume it carried cargo. It didn't. It was a work ship, Howie said. Like that explained everything. We did whatever the contract called for. Concrete, steel, heavy lifts, repairs. My crew handled the paving and cement. We even kept a small roller on board. He'd shrug when people raised an eyebrow at the roller. Some contracts placed us directly over an underwater worksite. We held the horizon on exact coordinates so the crew could work below without the ship drifting away. The ship held station without dropping anchor. You could feel the small corrections through your boots, thrusters making tiny adjustments before the wind or current ever reached the deck. The vessel was never really still. It was always trimming, always listening to something the instruments didn't bother to explain. Deck rules were strict and non-negotiable. Harness on, lanyard clipped. Always tethered to something solid. It didn't matter if the water was glass flat. Deck rules were simple and absolute. Harness on, lanyard clipped. Always tied off. Calm water didn't change that. Howie didn't make a speech about it. He just said a man over the side in open water doesn't come back. One job took them to a set of open water coordinates with no pier, no visible structure, nothing but horizon. They came on station and held position. The big offshore crane started first, lowering pre-built steel framework over the side. This job required a reinforced concrete foundation beneath the surface. A steel cage and formwork were assembled on the deck, lowered into position, then pumped the concrete down through tremie pipes. The concrete filled the form from the bottom upward, keeping the water from washing the mix apart. Then Howie's crew began pumping concrete into the steel framework they had lowered to the bottom. What had gone down as open steel was becoming a permanent foundation for the pipeline valve assembly. The work ran day and night under deck lights. Pump pressures were monitored, delivery loads recorded, and every number called out and double-checked. Each crew handled its piece. Once the concrete cured, the horizon would return to lower the valve manifold onto the finished pad. After the concrete cured, the horizon returned with the valve manifold. Using guide wires and a 4-point lifting frame, the crew lowered it onto the mounting posts, seated it securely on the foundation, and prepared it for the pipeline connections. Not every job was concrete. Once they came alongside another vessel in open water and rebuilt its engine on station. Crane lifts between the two hulls, parts moving through open air over deep water, no shipyard, no dry dock. Just two vessels holding steady while the work got done. We came into the channel to repair a small bridge, but it sat too low for the horizon to pass beneath. We worked from the near side. When the bridge work was finished, our crane lowered a roller onto shore. The job had torn up part of the access road. Howie climbed aboard, packed the fresh stone into place, and left the road level, solid and ready for traffic again. On one of those jobs, the Raven showed up. The Raven was a proper harbor tug, 1250 horsepower, family run, built for close quarters and quiet judgment. She came alongside and laid in light pressure against the workship's hull, keeping everything steady during the heavy lifts. Not pushing hard, not towing, just holding. Howie noticed how well the two vessels moved together. The horizon corrected itself before the change even reached the deck. The Raven matched it perfectly, like both boats were feeling the same invisible pressure from different angles. At one point, a line between the vessels went tight for no reason anyone had called. No one shouted. Mercer simply eased power, the tension bled off, and the work continued. Swede gave a single nod from the Raven's deck. That was all the acknowledgement the moment needed. When the job finished, it finished fast. Crane secured, concrete flow stopped, numbers matched. The Horizon broke station and moved off. The Raven peeled away clean. Behind them, the water looked exactly as it had when they arrived. Empty, unmarked, no trace of days of steel and concrete. Howie never told it like a mystery. That wasn't his style. He talked about the pay, the long shifts, the rule about staying clipped in, and the odd satisfaction of leaving a job site with nothing to show for it on the surface. A younger guy mentioned the money. Howie nodded once. Pays well, he said, but it's a career. It looked like a freighter, he'd say, but it didn't carry cargo. It carried men, tools, steel, and concrete. It went where it was told, did what it was sent to do, and left the water looking empty when the work was finished. That was Howie's version. Plain, workmanlike. And maybe that made it stick more than any ghost story.
Days of work, steel lowered, concrete poured, and nothing left to see on the surface. Howie never tried to make it mysterious. To him, it was simply the job. Know someone who works aboard a ship like the Horizon? Tell us in the comments. If you enjoyed Howie's story, please like, subscribe, and ring the bell. We'll see you next time around the campfire.